Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number one rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework.
Man, that's why I'm saying the rankings are bullshit.
From Canada.
Got a really high fight IQ.
For this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
Levels to the shit.
So many high-level guys.
So, like, the line is crazy.
Oh, there we go. Okay, welcome to another edition of the Don't Tap Podcast. We are back after, I don't want to say a uber successful week, but I would say it's a week where we maybe, started riding the ship in the right direction, and steering things on a path that's maybe a little bit cleaner with some picks. I think the three-way pick thing sort of worked out. I think by three of us coming in with some spots are the same and some spots that maybe we're overthinking, like maybe you guys are talking off the ledge with Anthony Smith a little bit more or whatever else, but us cross-sectioning a couple of our sharper spots, I think, or the spots that we feel strongest on, definitely played out well. It was definitely a sketchy card. We were just talking before we started recording that there was some sketchy finishes. If you guys want to just talk for a minute about that, and then we'll jump right into the next fight card, which is Dern versus Hill. Nick, what did you feel about the card versus spots that jumped out at you?
Well, yeah, last week, as you and I were talking about prior to this, is I think because we had two sketchy cards the week before with some weird decisions and some questionable outcomes, like we didn't load up. Like pretty much everything that I put out hit other than Gabe Green, which, he decided to run face first into a punch. And Anthony Smith, which was just a bad read, which resulted in me drinking beer out of a shoe, which I wish didn't happen. But other than that, man, it was a super successful card. The underdogs hit. I got in on Matt Brown at plus 200, and that line kept going. So I wish I hit the KO prop, but that was a big read of mine. If anybody follows me on Instagram, I put that out a week and a half before the fight. That was one of my plays of the week. So we hit Douglas De Silva Andrade, thanks to Billy Briz here. It was a good card all around, man. I ended up 9 units, I think. So very, very successful.
I thought the most interesting part of last week's card was the fucking Friday video. It was a very weird video by Dana White, Cherry Bomb Cake. And usually that signifies there's going to be a big underdog cash. And man, was there a big underdog cash. And I thought Court McGee was pretty much of a lock pick. And Matt Brown, and dove back into some vintage Matt Brown and had a vintage Matt Brown performance. Shouts to Nick for having that one correct.
And then, unfortunately, the Murano means didn't go over, and that was something that we did talk about pretty extensively. But I did put out a play for Murano submission or decision.
That doesn't count, though, Cal, because
no. I'm finishing it off, and I'm just gonna follow it up. So, although I did put it on Instagram, and that is where a base of our followers are on, as we do start to legitimize more having you on and start to make our Twitter more of a thing, then we can actually put it out on Twitter and start making that a thing. But really, our Twitter following is nothing. Instagram is where we have most, at least, of our followers for now. So as that changes and shifts, 100%. And it's not that I'm putting it out as a big play. It was something that I was able to get out in the chat at Pub Sports Radio as well, too. And I think it was a sharp play because Murano by submission, Means falls into shit. Means is sloppy as much as everybody was thinking he was a sharp spot. And I think Murano ended up, just like guillotine was just right there for the taking. Means just gets.
That was a weird spot though, man, because Alex Morono at weigh-ins, man. After I saw Alex Morono weigh in at weigh-ins, I no longer wanted to bet the over 2.5.
See, I don't really look at weigh-ins anymore because everybody puts so much into sunken skeletons, but you're hit or miss with that, right? It doesn't show a good clip, but it's how you refeed your body after weigh-ins. It's not really how you look on the scales. If you looked completely falling over and stumbling and shit, I'm with it. But it's really we're going to look at Buckley this week and see how he really cuts down to welterweight. That's going to be something to look at. So I think it's more how they refeed. So really, that's something to take note. If someone looks something on the scales, you want to take a note of that and write that down. How do they refeed? How is their bounce back off of looking bad on the scales? Because it's not always looking like a skeleton. So, but yeah, either way, we missed on the main play on that on the over. But the big thing was the dog in the week by Billy Briz. We missed on the money line, but we do hit on the Carl Solberg, which is the play, which was sprinkles of round 1 KO and sprinkles of round 2 KO, which worked out and helped sort of right the ship a little bit on the night. So, but we move on to this week, and there is a lot of people looking at it as a landmines. I think there's some spots, and I think that the way we do this with this, bringing 3 spots to the table, we might be able to really hone in on some simple spots. Watch your your bankroll management, and we just move on to the next fight. So, or on to the next fights next week. So, first, I know Billy took it away last week. I'm going to let Nick come in with his number one spot of the week. Nick, take it away.
Yeah, my number one spot of the week is going to be Borishev in this one. I think they're finally giving him a fight where he can fight a complete striker coming against Maashate. Maashate likes to throw heat, but he's not technical, and he's just somebody who can get hit a lot. He was able to kind of get that big elbow in on Rafa Garcia in his last fight, but he got control the whole fight. And I think Borshev's just going to come in here, man. The way he works the body right to the head, he's so technical. I think it's just going to be light years on the feet. I don't see Maashate proposing any sort of issues to him is in a sense of like a wrestling or grappling department. At least there's nothing on tape that will show it. And as long as this fight stays on his feet, man, I think it's Borshev all day. So Borshev's in at, I believe, like minus 145. Let me double check.
I saw 170 on FanDuel earlier today. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, Billy, he opened up as the dog. He opened up as the dog, did he not? Now
yeah, plus 120. He opened up at plus 120. It's minus 155 on Tapology, but there's different breeds all around the board. So, and they do have a KO prop release, which is plus 245, which I like a lot as well. So that's, of course, just on ref or whatever it is, but that's where it's being opened at. So the second we get that on DraftKings, I'm going to hit that as well.
And Billy, what's your thoughts on that one?
I'm right there with Nick, man. That was one of the spots I had circled for this week. Usually we were talking about striker versus grappler matchups and when we picked through 3 matchups, but finally, Borshev gets a striker versus striker grappler. No grappler in this matchup. Striker versus striker, and you're getting a world champion striker on the feet versus a pretty somewhat unproven young striker. I thought Maashate was definitely a good spot in his last fight. And I definitely got burnt with that one. Had to take a step back a little bit. Maybe I got a little bit too happy with the Steve Garcia one. Rafa Garcia definitely showed. And it wasn't even the grappling of Rafa Garcia. It was more of the striking that was getting towards him. If you remember that fight a little bit, he was piecing up Maashate. And if he's able to do that, I feel like Borshev is definitely going to be able to do that. Team Alpha Male, besides Chris Gonzalez last week on that Bellator card, they've been rolling of recent. I like Borshev in this spot here. And I think it's a straight money line shot, depending on what the price tag is. I'm seeing minus 170 on FanDuel already. So, I mean, it's definitely not sneaky, but there's not a lot of good spots in this card. And sometimes you got to pay to play, and I definitely am paying the juice with Borshev this week. I think that should be the biggest bet of the card, right?
Yeah, I mean, if this stays on the feet, it's just the disparity is going to be there. I mean, Borshev's just so good. So, I mean, he's going to end up catching him with a lead hook. That's his money, his go-to, or at least a 3-piece combination to finish him up. So, definitely see that. I'm with you guys on that one. And it'll likely be one of the stronger ones that we push. We did take a look at some of the stuff last week. We put out, and you mentioned Chris Gonzalez. We sort of backed him, and I like the fight didn't go the distance as a play. And I was leaning Chris Gonzalez, but I just looked at the value and thought fight doesn't go was a good play. No dice. That was put out on Instagram, which once again is our the main source that we have. Billy, we're gonna have you take away your strongest play on the card. I know you just talked about the money line play there with Borshev, but what's your strongest play that you're bringing to the table?
Yeah, we're going to look at this lightweight matchup. Chase Hooper versus Nick Fiore, 2 prospects in the lightweight division here, trying to make their career back on track. Fiore coming out of the New England Cartel under Coach Tyson Chartier, probably jacking that name up, but main training partners of Calvin Cater and Rob Font. Fiore's one of those rare prospects that actually saw his stock improve after his debut loss versus Mateus Rebecki. Prior to that fight in the East Coast regional scene, he displayed a potent finishing ability. I mean, 6 career wins all in the first round definitely caught my attention. And he's from Boston, home of Dana White. And in the Rebecki fight, he showed his cardio, man, and heart. He stayed in there all 3 rounds on short notice versus Poland's #1 prospect. Hooper, on the other hand, he's claiming he's growing up, man. I mean, he's going from the featherweight division to the lightweight division, and he recently just signed a new 4-fight deal with the UFC despite coming off an embarrassing loss. This is very interesting, though, because he struggled at 145 taking shots to the face, and I felt like he was being physically dominated in his losses. But he spent a lot of time working on his striking with the likes of Wonder Boy and spent the majority of this camp at out there in Washington State with the likes of Brady Highstand and Chiesa, that camp. And a lot of people in the community will say this is a grappler versus grappler matchup in favor of Chase Hooper, but don't sleep on Nick Fiore's hands, man. I think that would be his best weapon in this fight, landing punches early, defending desperate takedowns from Chase Hooper, and maybe he'll be able to get off a couple of takedowns himself. But Chase is finally the veteran in this matchup with a double amount of UFC fights despite their ages. But wins over Daniel Tamor, Peter Barrett, Felipe Colores, those aren't the most impressive wins, man. I mean, we thought Chase Hooper was really turning the corner his last fight, and he got absolutely dominated by Steve Garcia. The under 2.5 definitely caught my attention here. Both of these fighters have 100% finishing rate in their wins, so I'm leaning towards the Nick Fiore finishing side. But definitely that's where the line movement's going in this fight as well too.
Yeah, this wasn't one that I ended up picking as a spot, but this was one I knew that you were looking at tape you had posted online, and it was something I was sort of playing with, because the first thing that jumps out to me was Chase Hooper took punches like Brock Lesnar taking punches from Shane Carwin. He backed up, turtled up, moved away. He did not like the punches at all. Doesn't like it hit in the face. And that's a huge problem, a huge red flag. That's worse than cardio to me. If you can't handle a punch or take a punch, that's a problem. Now, the only thing about Fiore that scares me is I didn't see a jab out of him all. And they were talking about it in the commentary too. So he wasn't setting things up. And it's like, as much as I actually do want to sort of, a lot of people are jumping on Fiore as a play. Just like if he doesn't set up his combinations, then he's leaving himself open for a takedown as sloppy as Chase Hooper's takedowns are. So I was leaning to that under, and I do like the underplay. And I'm not suggesting that Chase actually gets a takedown, because his takedowns are pretty sloppy, but I don't know, if you're not setting it up and you're not throwing out that jab there to mask a lot of things, you end up.
He was also fighting Mateus Rebecki, though. I mean, Mateus Rebecki is definitely like fringe top 15, top 20 already. I mean,
for me, this is kind of a stay off just because I want to see where Chase Hooper's at in his career. The last fight was absolutely pitiful the way he came out. Nick Fiore, as you said, like that's the side I tend to lean, just because, as I said, that fight against Rebecki, like, he was supposed to get dominated. I had like first round finish by Rebecca, and I think I paid like -200 on it. Like, it was juice to the gills, did not come through. And Fiore actually looked like half decent in that fight, in a fight they should have got absolutely killed in. So this fight's kind of a show me spot. I do lean Fiore, but I'm a little bit hesitant whenever it comes to Chase Hooper, because every single time I bet on him, he either gets his ass kicked or pulls something out in the third round.
He doesn't have a huge reach advantage in this. He only has a 2-inch reach advantage, and I think on the ground, his leverage with his legs and his arms is usually his advantage. He's able to sort of get a backpack really easy using that length. So it could play out that he doesn't have that advantage on the ground, which is interesting. I really like the under, though, man. I think as much as I really want to see if Fiore sets up his combinations and touches Hooper's face, it's a wrap. And even if he doesn't, it hits the ground. It's interesting to see who finishes who, and I just don't think the fight goes the distance. So I like that play from Billy. That was sort of what I was leaning on. Billy, what did you say the under 2.5 was? Is it there? I saw under 1.5.
Let me go to best fight odds, because I don't know if they're gonna put. We would be hoping for under 2.5, but I think the line makers and the odds makers. Yeah, it's probably going to be under 1.5 at this.
It's under 1.5.
1.5 right now, plus 140.
Yeah, I got plus 135 in Bet Online right now. So,
man,
fight doesn't go the distance, is -220 though. So, like, that's not a bad parlay piece.
Me either. I don't mind that as a parlay piece. That was exactly what I was getting towards next. Is like, is this just a parlay? The under, we might need the extra 5 minutes.
Yeah, because even if Chase wins, like,
we lost Carpenter, so we fill it in with that maybe.
Yeah, because Chase is kind of a guy that finishes late too. So
Chase is a durable guy, man. I mean, he's usually him getting his ass beat, and he either stays alive in the third round or he ends up coming alive in the third. If it goes to cardio, man, I mean, I think Chase Hooper has better cardio. How I see this fight kind of playing out is Nick Fiore dominating the first 2 rounds, and then later off in the second round, Chase Hooper starts coming alive.
Yeah, and that's it. And, like, the thing, too, is, like, if you look at his fight with Steve Garcia, like, he got clipped in, like, the first, like, 20 seconds, and he was pretty much out on his feet. So I have trouble going back to this one. Like, did he just not recover fully, and he just kind of took the bombs till the referee kind of got in the middle of it, right? Because I don't think he has wits about him from pretty much the beginning of that fight till that fight was pretty much
He looked like
ended.
he got mugged. It looked like one of those bad like CCTV videos where somebody's getting mugged and getting punched in the face and never been punched in the face before and didn't know what it was. That's what it looked like. So
I
yeah,
mean, he made Peter Barrett look like a freaking stud, man. I mean, and he ended up retiring like 2 fights later.
so I think
That's
we're all
true.
sort of on the same side. Maybe fish for like a third round decision or something. Look for some late finishes or fight doesn't go. I think would be the way that we attack this. But what do you think would be the number one play for you on this, Billy? We're going to go with the money line.
I think we go with the under here. Just say for right now, put in parentheses alt line under 2.5, because wherever the under 2.5 is, I would pay for it. If it's -175 range, I think that's worth paying the juice for. I mean, it's MMA. Got to pay up a little bit.
And I mean, the thing is important. We fight. We isolate the one fight where we're gonna find a couple spots, and I think that's where you guys feel pretty confident in. So
I'll
No,
see
but
if
you
it's
made a good point about like if this does hit the ground, this could just be a 50-50, and I probably would lean Chase Hooper as the better grappler. So like submission artist, not grappler. So if it goes to the submissions, maybe the under is just the way to go. We just buy up to the upside because both of them have 100% finishing rates.
yeah, that's not bad too. That's not bad at all. Okay. By the end of it, maybe we'll figure out exactly what would be the play. But I think under and sort of brackets, and we'll go from there. Okay, next pick. I'm gonna fade Nick because I think Nick's fading me on this one. I'm going with Fluffy Hernandez, man. It's a little chalky, but I think that his one win, like his attribute that he has, is his win condition in this fight. I think his pace and pressure plays. So if you look at Hernandez, obviously he has his slick subs, his pressure and his pace, his nice hands. 4 of his 6 wins, 3 of them coming by submission. This is something that I'm potentially looking at for late in the fight. I think that his pace, his pressure, his wrestling is going to pay huge dividends in this one. He lands he's at about 6.5 takedowns a fight. That's huge. Like that's a huge number that you can't ignore. And I know that a lot of people are looking to fade him, but with having 3 subs in the UFC, I do like the fight. Potentially goes the distance if it does go to decision. So I like Hernandez maybe by submission decision we're throwing a bunch of different ideas out there. Submission decision as sort of that backup plan. I think it's either one of two things plays out. He's going to run pace, pressure, takedowns, and lead to a submission, or he's just going to dominate for 3 rounds, push the pace, push the pressure, and just really nullify everything that you're going to see Shabazi bring to the table. And I know, Nick, you're all over Shabazi, and I know that's a big thing for you, but I just think that the biggest thing that he faces with his problem is he's got to hit that big shot. And if we're looking for that big shot, I just don't know if it's going to land in this one. Yeah, I know that Hernandez has been knocked out once recently in the past, 6 years. But I just don't see it happening. I don't think that plays. I don't think his karate base is going to be enough with the footwork to be able to stay away from Hernandez. He's going to be on the cage a lot. And for me, I just like Hernandez. You can either look at a sub decision, look at third round decision. I'm going to obviously lock something in as I'm throwing all this shit out there as we talk. And even the round subs I was looking at, second or third at plus 650. Round 3 is plus 800. And yeah, man. So, I mean, you guys throw out your ideas on this one. I know that was a little bit of a mixed match.
I should say I'm not all over Shabazian at all. This is like
Oh,
I said, we
okay.
no, I think the line's a little wide, but in retrospect, I think Hernandez wins, and I think he wins late. But like anything else, man, we were talking about win condition bets. Edmund Shabazian to win by KO in the first round is plus 800, and you'd be fucking stupid to not play that, because if he wins, he's gonna win in the first round. I'm not gonna take the plus 275. I'm not gonna take the plus 350 on the KO. I'm just gonna play the first round play the first round finish, and probably parlay the under, because I'm also not laying that kind of juice on Hernandez, who, although has looked good as of late, he isn't a minus 350 or whatever he sits at to me. I think it's a very wide line. Shabazian is still fairly young in his career, and at some point in time, he's going to get better. Now, if I keep betting on him, I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I make money off of him. But yeah, man, first round KO, plus 800, and then just parlay the under is the way I see this fight.
And I knew that was going to be something that you would bring to the table. And that is sort of the way, if you can isolate this fight, that is the best way to do it, whether you're setting up Fluffy with, if you believe it's going to be inside the distance, or a decision, whatever way you're looking at Fluffy, and then have that counter of that first round KO. It's definitely a play. Billy?
I'm kind of with Nick, man. You might not be a bigger Edmund Shabazian fan in the world than me, man. Hot take. I think he knocks him out in the first round in this fight. Honestly, I really do, man. There's only one way, and one way Edmund Shabazian wins this fight, and it's by knockout. And plus 350 for that. Knockout round one plus 850. He's going to be it's going to look Brian Battle-esque. I mean, that's the only way I see Edmund Shabazian winning this fight, to be honest with you. Everything in MMA would tell me that Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is the play, but then you start digging back into his last 3 wins, and Rodolfo Vieira, that's a BJJ guy. He just started getting better with his striking. Yeah, he throws powerful overhand rights, but they're pretty telegraphable. Josh Frem, a guy that doesn't really strike too well, in my opinion. Yeah, he knocked out Cedric Dumas and made him look like an idiot, but maybe he just isn't that good. And then Marc-Andre Barriou is just a person I'm not really too high on. So it's like, I honestly think his 3 wins are a little bit overrated here. And he's shown that he's gotten finished early in his career, very early in rounds. Kevin Holland knocked him out, knee to the body, ground and pound. That was round 1, made money on that. Marcus Perez, anaconda choke, round 2. Even dating back to his amateur record a little bit. He's got submitted before by Justin Jones. So, I mean, granted, I'm not going to bring up his amateur record too much and grade it against him. But what I'm getting towards is Evan Shabazian. He wins a lot of his win condition is early in fights. And I think Fluffy Hernandez has shown the ability that he could be a little bit fluffy in the earlier fights. And Evan Shabazian should be able to take over that. And training at Extreme Couture, he looked like a way different person in his last fight. So hopefully he goes out here. Because Dolce Lubingala, while we kind of shit on him in the betting community, he is a physically stout guy that is a primary.
Nick is the president of the Dolce Lugambula fan club, just so you know.
It's not a name I'm happy to have.
He looks good. He looks like he's supposed to be good, but he's not that good. But as what I'm getting towards is I think Edmund Shabazian's a little bit undervalued here. The only things that really scare me off is Fluffy's cardio, his wrestling, / if there was a person to create in a lab to beat Edmund Shabazian, it probably would be Anthony Fluffy Hernandez fighting style. So all those things kind of concern me, but hot take this week, I think the underdog comes in the co-main spot.
Yeah, I mean, I like the take of the first round. I mean, that is win condition, that is early, but I'm digging my feet in the sand on this one. I think that Hernandez, I think he's just hit the nail on the head there. It's the pace, the pressure, the fight IQ versus is a shot going to land. And granted, Shabazian has looked better. You are right as he's changed camps. But for me, I'm going to go with the momentum regardless. I mean, I hold Barrios pretty high as far as his pace and pressure as well, too. But I know a lot of people start shitting on him. I'm Canadian, maybe being a homer. But, yeah, I'm going to go with Hernandez. I'm going to stick to my guns on that one. But I will pass it off now. Nick, what is your next play on the night?
We're going to pick a dog on this one, and I'm going to go with Andre Fiallo. Everybody knows that I do not like Joaquin Buckley. I do not think he's that good. He looked better in the Dariah fight, but Dariah is the type of guy that if you start bullying him, he doesn't really have much to offer. Andre Fiallo, although has been KO'd in his last 2 fights, against Muslim Salikov, he was just completely outclassed striking-wise, which isn't something I think Buckley brings to the table. And Jake Matthews just bullied him a little bit. Buckley's been known to have a weak chin. I think Fiallo could probably take whatever comes his way and at some point land that shot. So I think Buckley's going to get KO'd in this fight and probably second round.
Billy?
I'm going to go on the other side on this one. I think Buckley moving down a weight class is the story of the fight for this one. Like you talked about, Andre Fiallo's gotten bullied before by Jake Matthews, a guy that I think I've seen broke before, bet against him, break it before. So I feel like Joaquin Buckley moving down a weight class, this is the weight class that he should be at. Granted, his last 2 fights, he got a little bit overzealous with the Albert Daraev one. He just fought somebody that he's trained with before, so he kind of knew how his wrestling style, and it wasn't something that he wasn't not used to. I think this is going to be a striker fight, and I'm just going to lean with Buckley, but not anything I really want to bet on. Buckley, I feel like he's coming up a little bit undervalued in his last two fights. That fight against Chris Curtis, he was winning that fight until he wasn't.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of have to lean with Billy on this one. It's not really this is actually one I sort of was highlighting to try to find a line on it, something in there to find the value. I don't know if I want to pick a side necessarily, but I think Buckley, if you look at it, for me, against Curtis, you have a boxing match. And in the Imavov fight, Imavov pretty much dictated where the hell that one went. With Duraev, yes, former training partner, but he kept it striking with that one, didn't really shoot for any takedowns. Against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, he turned into D1 Buckley and got 5 takedowns in that fight. That was sort of a sloppy split decision. So for me, I think that's actually where you might see this one go. I think that depending on how he does, I know we want to look at the scales and everything else. I'm going to be following him on Instagram to see what he posts prior. I know he came in at 185 right now. He's joking around and memeing. He's taking a fake bite of I think it's a Happy Meal or some shit, and then he cuts to him as a fat kid. So he had like one of his fat friends jumped into the frame. So he's messing around with it right now. But I think if Buckley has a good weight cut, comes down, refeeds properly, and I think he's going to be just fine with that. I think he's going to be able to get some takedowns. I do like the Buckley takedown prop as it comes out. We'll see where the line is at. If that is something that has value, we'll see what that.
Oh, for the moon, Carl. What's the Buckley sub prop, man? You just sold us on the sub prop now.
But I'm looking at the fight doesn't go as well too at -325. So if we can go, maybe fight doesn't start round 3 as maybe a players as well too as maybe a parlay, because I don't think it's going to start round 3. I think that's going to be definitely something to look at depending on where that's at. I don't know if you guys have that. But Buckley decision
18-1, bro.
I was just looking at that.
That's wild.
Dude, the degenerate in me just kind of smiled a little bit, and I was like, "There's a way."
There's definitely a way. The way you just played that out, definitely. Before Joaquin Buckley fought bad wrestlers his last 3 fights, he was the one that was being the wrestler. And I definitely think while Andre Fiallo's never been submitted before in his career, hence why the odds are so high, I could definitely see Joaquin Buckley hitting him hard or something like that, clubbing sub.
I just think if Buckley mixes in a little bit, even if it's some cage work, whether he's trying to chain some stuff together on the cage and just tire out Fiallo a little bit. He's also going from the southpaw stance, and from the southpaw stance, he lands that body kick. That body kick is money all day long, and if he plants that the way it needs to be planted against Fiallo, who isn't a risk of the takedown, he's going to be able to gas him, man. And then later on in the fight, I mean, that could be one of our sort of long shot plays of the week. Buckley by submission gets a rear naked choke, or even, I wouldn't like a guillotine.
Or Buckley round 3.
Or Buckley round 3 decision maybe, or something along those lines as a play. Maybe one of the more solid plays we'll look at. I was even now you got me on the sub. I actually looked at decision KO, like a late KO in the fight, but now that subs it's irksome in my head, because if it happened and played and we didn't touch it, I'd fucking lose it. So
dude, honestly, if you're think about it, I said last week that I was gonna play Mandy Bum by split decision, and I didn't fucking play it, and it was like 25-1.
I ended up betting it live. I had to. I was thinking about us on the podcast. And I
hit the split.
Well, it's plus 300, so I'm just gonna bet it.
I hit the split right beforehand. I put it in the Pub Sports Radio pod or like the chat on YouTube, but I had hit it right beforehand because I was like, wait a minute, this fight's gonna be greasy as fuck, and why not? We should have made that a place. Fight ends in split decision was a
like gods.
Sketchy way that fight finished.
Women's MMA has been sketchy. I mean, look at this card this week. I mean, you got your girl Lupi Godinez versus Emily Ducate. I wanted to hear your thoughts on this one.
I'm not touching that one this week. Yo, the one thing I will say about that fight is I went into the last one saying Lupi this, Lupi that, takedowns, whatever else. We know it was a decision either way. People were saying she maybe lost that fight. But man, she boxed again. And she said prior to that fight that coming in on short notice, it was a little bit of an issue for her because she wasn't allowed to have enough camp. Now she's doing it again. So I'll back her as a fan, but that's all I'm doing. I'm backing her as a fan. No window for me on this one. I'm chilling on Lupi this week. What's your second strong play?
I have a gambling problem, so I gotta always go to one of these early fights in the night. There's something about UFC fights. I mean, last week we were talking about the Battle Green fight, and that ended up just being a good money fight if you're on the right side. And I feel like there's some value in this Takashi Sato versus Demba Greenbow fight. Takashi Sato, while I think he has a huge experience advantage, both of these fighters are basically like around the same exact age. It's just the wrestlers are the ones that are able to beat Takashi Sato. He's able to beat the people off that he can defend the takedowns. But there's one thing I would say about Thimba Garimbo was I'm a huge AJ Fletcher guy. I was on AJ Fletcher in that fight, but I was also more on the under 2.5. There's something about Thimba Garimbo, man. Under 2.5 is just his language. And he was able to get a lot of takedowns on AJ Fletcher. If it wasn't for that reversal for AJ Fletcher, or I think it was an armbar series to be exact, that ended up letting the reversal happen for AJ Fletcher to get on top of that fight and end up getting the guillotine choke and finishing the submission. But if that series doesn't happen, then Makarembo could have been that guy, man. I mean, coming into the UFC, if you look at his Instagram, he was posing pictures with the belt. He was with Kamaru Usman and stuff like that. So, I mean, not somebody I was really too high on in the tape because I think he's a little bit of an age prospect, but the UFC has high hopes for this guy. And I don't think they're really trying to promote a guy like Sato. I feel like a guy like Sato is a good gatekeeper for these young guys that are a little bit aged out a little bit to get a couple of good wins under their belt. Maybe they get a little bit quick rush. And I think Thimba Garimbo gets the submission here on Takashi Sato in the second round.
And what's the line currently sitting at for just money line?
Money line minus 113. That's the way I would play this, though, would be the money line.
Okay. But I mean, still, you're talking it out. You got the money line and then you got the sub as well. And what, you look at second round submission?
I'm probably play more of the submission props, maybe like
Straight up.
under 2.5 or Garimbo round props, maybe rounds 1 and 2 /
I didn't think anybody would pick the first fight of the night. And I was shaking my head because you started talking about Sato. I'm like, this fucking guy's going to pick Takashi Sato to win this fight. And then he went on the Garimba thing. I was like, damn it. Now I need to look through this card and find the third one. Because, yeah, Garimba, man, I'm high as shit on him, man. I think he's going to wrestle the shit out of Sato. I think Sato's old. He's on a 3 or 4 fight losing streak. He's only winning his last fights over Jason Witt, who literally a swift gust of win can KO. So I said, man, I think Garimba, as you said, man, gets the submission and gets those takedowns early and often. I think minus 110 is a steal. And money keeps coming in on Sato, so you may even get plus money by the end of the week. So
beautiful. Right, that's another spot that I thought nobody was going to be on either.
That was like first fight of the night. I'm like, this one I get picked. There's not a lot on this card we can really choose from. So I'm like, this is a safe one where nobody's going to pick it before me. But no.
But it's like, although we joke and say like, oh, you know, I picked it, you picked it. But it's like, it's great that you guys both look at the same spot. And then even though I'm not looking at it, it's like we got that's solidified, right? 2 or 3 are on that spot and looking at it. So that's sick. I like it. Garimbo, a play for the week. I was still like, the moment that Billy started mentioning, I'm like, because it's so early in the card. And I'm like, I guess I'm trying to be a little bit safer and stay away from the Anthony Smith situation. Thanks, guys.
Sometimes you got to like cash in. Like we were on the podcast talking about Gabe Green, but then doing a little bit more research and knowing the situation of how Brian Battle got put in that card, it was like, man, if it wasn't for Brian Battle, man, that was a great way to start off the night. I hit the 20-1 KO in the first round, Brian Battle money line, Brian Battle decision no bet. I mean, it was a great. It's the early fights of the night, they usually have a couple of finishes and they're usually all at plus odds for like their finishing props. So I think this is the one that we get the plus money on and we cash and we already feel good sitting back in the chair as we're watching women's MMA in the main event.
And I'm going to go with my lady dog of the week. A lot of people are going to give me flack because this has changed to a 5-round fight now. But I'm sorry, I'm going to go with Angie Hill, man. Angie Hill at plus 160. I think anything under plus 150, I get the no value in that scenario. But I mean, people are looking at Mackenzie Dern like she's going to submit her for sure if it's within 5 rounds. And I like to ask people what we're looking at here, what we're talking about. Mackenzie Dern, although she is a high-level jiu-jitsu practitioner, she has takedowns that are just brutal. Absolutely. Like they're just, I don't know what to say about it. I know one day I'll find myself in a room with her, whether it's jiu-jitsu grappling tournament or something. Hopefully she doesn't see this and fuck me up. But her striking it's just not improving really that much. A lot of people are saying it is. I don't see it. She doesn't set her takedowns well at all. I mean, if you look at her takedowns, her last fight was where she got 2 takedowns. Prior to that, it's always 1, and they're all sloppy, scrambly, horrible scenarios. Angie Hill, a vet. Angie Hill at Dog Money is usually a play for me over plus 150. It's burnt me when I haven't touched it. On the feet, this isn't even close. Angie's gonna fuck her up. On the cage, I'm still thinking Angie even does pretty well, and I think that even if Angie gets taken down, she's not gonna get submitted right away. I think eventually she's gonna get back to her feet. Because the other thing that Mackenzie's shown in MMA jiu-jitsu is not position before submission. And she's put herself into bad scenarios and people have gotten up on her, right? So we can look at Mackenzie Dern as getting the sub and we can even maybe have that as a hedge, but I like Angie Hill as a dog. Even if you want to play this split decision prop, because she finds herself in a lot of splits as well too. Maybe fight ends in splits because that's a lot of her sort of win and lose conditions. But I'm on Angie Hill as the dog. I just think that on the feet, this isn't even close. And I think Mackenzie Dern, although her jiu-jitsu is so high level, I just don't see it translating so well in MMA. I think that she gets punched in the face. She's not a black belt anymore. And so I'm with Angie Hill on this one, man. Female dog of the week, despite Nick trying to talk me off it.
Well, honestly, what you just said, the fact that this fight could potentially end in a split decision is the main reason why I wouldn't bet it. Like, if you look at Angela Hill, man, the amount of fights that she has that are just so razor thin, it's like, I wouldn't want to be, like, I guess if you got the plus money on it, yeah, that'd be
Plus
fair.
160, and then also sprinkle the split decision, and you're laughing.
I know. Yeah, I have a thing where...
Angie Hill side.
Yeah, like I don't personally like to touch women's MMA unless I'm very confident in the side. And like the problem with this fight is that if it's on the feet, as you said, Angela Hill's winning all day. But like Angela Hill doesn't have the best fight IQ a lot of times. Like she's gonna throw bombs, and although Mackenzie Dern doesn't have great takedowns, she only averages 0.61 per fight. She tends to find herself like somebody throws a kick and then they're like a sloppy intake to her getting it to the ground. And Angela Hill throws a lot, so I feel like these openings could be there. As I said, like I sided with Dern. I think she has the higher ceiling. Like I think that Angela Hill is at the end of her career, and the UFC is going to push her a lot more than she's going to push more than they're going to push Angela Hill. But as you said, man, like to me, this fight's way too greasy, and I'm not getting enough on either side. Like even the over props, like I'm kind of like looking at them like. If Mackenzie Dern like catches a kick and gets her down in the first and gets that back, like that shit's over. And in retrospect, if she ends up, against the cage and Angela Hill just starts throwing bombs, the referee can step in. Like from a betting perspective, there's not a single thing on this fight that I want to put money on. But I said, I respect it, man.
I don't agree that it's over, man. I really don't like. Over and over again, Dern has shown that she's even people where she's had their back, she's been shucked off. Like. So I just don't know. I don't know if that's a wrap. Like, I don't know if that's a wrap scenario, but I do get the whole stay off and there being a little bit of toxicity in it. But I just think over plus 160, there's value in Hill. And I found myself at times where I've been on the Dern side of things. I'm sweating because they're striking, just killing me as I'm yelling at the TV. She can't get the takedown and we're going to a decision. And I'm like, what the hell? And then on the other side, I've been burned by Hill where she's, landing shots and sort of staying in it. And she's actually shown improvements in her last couple. I'm going to go on the plus money side, plus 160. And I do like actually sprinkling that split decision. I think that was a lesson learned in the Manny Bone fight.
If you can get plus money, I think the decision no action on Dern may not be a bad play that people aren't looking at. Because I honestly think that it might be, yeah. But I think that if like Hill wins, it's probably a decision. Like I don't think she gets her out of there. I think you end up with the case where Dern can't get the fight to the ground and Hill just kind of jabs her up for the better part of 25 minutes. So if there's a finish, it's definitely going to come on the Dern side. And if she doesn't get the finish, I don't know if she can control enough of 5 rounds. So in that respect, I will agree with you on that.
I think the hardest part was when you were talking about what is the UFC and what is Dana White and all the boys thinking when they're putting together this fight. They're definitely trying to push Mackenzie Dern, but this could be one of those incidents and scenarios where fighter A, the A side, is the one that's being pushed, but fighter B isn't really the one to be fucked with, to be honest with you, because I am with Colum on the side of, like, if you really told me how this fight plays out, See mad people parlaying Mackenzie Dern. That's their last parlay piece of the night. The books are probably going to be rooting for Angela Hill. I definitely think Mackenzie Dern's wrestling defense is a little bit suspect. And then on top of that, let's talk about her striking. I remember Jason Perillo 2 weeks ago was just on fucking Mike Perry's Showtime shit for BKFC. Jason Perillo hasn't been at the fucking gym. What has Mackenzie Dern really been doing for this camp? She's probably thrown together this camp, to be honest with you, if you really think about it. And then more narrative theory, she just got a recent divorce, man, within the last 6 months, man. She's going through the child thing where her and her
Didn't know
child
that.
custody and stuff like that. There's a lot of things in Mackenzie Dern's life that isn't related to fighting, with her fighting already not being that good, that has me as X factors for this fight, where I am kind of leaning towards the Angela Hill side. Kind of want to see how Wayne's go a little bit, kind of see where Angela Hill's headspace is at. But if this was in front of fans like it was supposed to be in Charlotte, 3-round fight, I probably would lean towards the Mackenzie Dern side, getting the submission or something like that. But I mean, Mackenzie Dern's been in a weird spot scenario. I mean, her last fight, wasn't it fought in front of Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah.
Her last fight was in the Apex, but it was in front of Mark Zuckerberg. She hasn't won a fight yet in the Apex. I think she's one of those people that gets excited for the fans and stuff like that. And there's not going to be any fans. We're right back in the Apex, boys. I think Angela Hill is back in her workspace. She's there commentary every weekend. This is another work day in the office for Angela Hill. I think she pulls out this dub. Just wanted to hear you guys' quick thoughts on the Michael Johnson versus Diego Ferreira fight.
I side with Johnson, man. I think Diego Ferreira's been out of the game for too long. I think Johnson's the type of guy that can come in here and just make this closer than it should be. And he's not the type of guy I like to bet against, because he wins fights he shouldn't, and he loses fights that he should win. So I like Johnson, man. I think Johnson wins a decision or gets a late KO. I don't think Diego Ferreira is really in his career anymore. I think he's kind of on his way out. And I said the long layoff really scares me.
I don't blame you, man. I was talking to one of my boys about this fight. The only thing that scares me off a little bit is, like, man, if Diego Ferreira's last 3 fights, man, granted, it's been a while since we've seen him, but man, those are hard, tough 3 fights that he had. To be honest with you, the scariest part of the situation is more of like, we've been making money a lot, I feel like, on Michael Johnson of recent, but maybe in this spot scenario, I might have to jump off. But I don't know, man. It's one I got to think about this week.
Yeah, that one sort of scared me because I think I found myself with Michael Johnson the same way I did with Anthony Smith. I've loved MMA for a very long time, and I just, Michael Johnson's been ahead for a long time. A wrestler who fell in love with his striking, became a striker, and then a bit of a journeyman, because if you look at his record, that tells the story. Journeyman within the UFC, anyways. But man, I don't know. He has the power to put Ferrer out there. I went back and forth on this one. I felt like I was a little, maybe more of a fan, so I decided to leave that one as a stay off. But I do get the Johnson side 100%. And what's he sitting at currently right now?
A plus 145, I think. One sec.
Yeah, and at plus money, you can never sort of hate it depending on the matchups, unless it's a dead lock on the other side. Johnson, definitely a good dog. So,
yeah, one more we should touch on before we leave, because this does seem to be the debatable fight of the week, is the Gilbert Urbina fight. Where's everybody stand on this one? Because that's the one I see MMA Twitter going back and forth on a lot.
What do you think, Billy?
It's tough, man. I got a tough little story with my guy Orion Koski, man. Koski, his other brother cost me a lot of money before, so not one of my favorite people ever to back in the world. I'm not a fan of the Koski brothers, but Gilbert Urbina is an interesting character, man, because I feel like a lot of his losses are just bad fortune. I mean, Brian Battle, that one didn't age out too well. Brian Battle ended up being a little bit better than we all thought, a little bit. Treshawn Gore, maybe the jury's still out on him. And when he fought Sean Brady, I will tell you right now, Sean Brady's my guy. And they're sometimes in MMA, your heart gets you through fights. But Sean Brady almost did lose that fight to Gilbert Urbina. He shot in for a takedown, took a huge knee right to the face, fought right through it, acted like there was no knee to the face. But majority of people, 9 times out of 10, would have dropped, curled up in the fetal position, and got knocked out. So I think there's a little bit of value here on my guy Gilbert Urbina, but I don't know if I'm going to the window to place it, man. It's a sketchy card, and I don't think there's edge on this one pre-flop. I think there's more edge live.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I have to agree with that, man. Like, that's the one I'm going back and forth a lot too. I said I've seen a lot of people put money in on Urbina. I think the value's gone at this point because that line has narrowed down a fair bit. Like, if you got him early on, whenever I think he's like a plus 145, plus 150, like there's definitely value there, but I think it's gone now. This fight's probably gonna be a pick 'em by fight day. If Kosi can land the takedowns, man, like he's gonna win this fight all day. So, but on the feet, Urbina's gonna beat the crap out of him. So it's kind of.
I think Urbina's wrestling's a little bit underrated, man. I mean, on his regional scene fights when he was the A side of things, he was absolutely running through people on the ground.
It's true, yeah, and he's got a fair bit of submissions on his record too. Like,
and his older brother was also a former UFC fighter and stuff like that. He was a wrestler. He comes from a wrestling family.
He's going to get some takedowns in this. I think this fight's going to be won in the scrambles, to be honest. Whoever's able to really allocate where this fight takes place based on the scrambles, and I think that's going to really be a huge part of this one. But I myself as well, I sort of stayed off this one because it is a rather sketchy one. But let's go down the line quickly. So Mackenzie Dern, Angie Hill, we've already gone through it. Dern, Nick, you're on the Dern side of things.
Yeah.
Billy and I are on the Hill side of things. Edmund Shabazian against Anthony Hernandez. I'm on the Hernandez side of things. Quickly, you guys are on the
Shabazian.
I'm gonna go Shabazian, but with no real conviction.
Perfect. Alex Morano again. Emily Ducote against Lupe Godinez. I'm gonna go Godinez and be the fan, but I'm gonna stay off it as far as any kind of play. No takedowns this week.
I'm going Emily.
I'm gonna be the fan, huge Emily Ducote fan, so I'm gonna go with Emily Ducote here.
Andre Fialho against Joaquin Buckley. We think, well, in talking it out, I think D1 Buckley's gonna potentially come to fruition if he needs to in the stand-up if he doesn't like what he sees. So I like Buckley in this side. I think looking at Buckley, we're gonna look at maybe Buckley as a sub as the crazy prop play of the week. But I like Buckley on takedowns. I like Buckley as the pick. And Nick, that is going to be your dog of the week, correct?
Yes, sir. Let's go Fialho.
And Nick is on the Fialho side, and you were on the Buckley side as well with me, Billy, yes?
Yeah, I'd be confident in Buckley this week. I don't know why.
Pereira and Johnson. I'm going to go Johnson on this one. I like him at the dog money. I think that he has power in his hands. He's a seasoned vet, finds ways to win, knows how to do it. So we'll go with Johnson. Your picks?
Johnson. I just realized I picked 4 dogs in a row.
Oh, good. Some tight fights. Some of them.
That's how it went last week on that UFC Charlotte card. There was just a string of dogs going on them, and then at the end of the prelims.
That's fair. That's fair.
I lean towards the MJ side. You know, I got to throw that MJ little initials out there.
We have Mahashate against Borshev. I think we're all on the same side. I think this is going to stay on the feet long enough for Borshev to do what he needs to do, and that'll be one of our strong plays of the week. That was both of your plays that you were looking at, correct?
Yeah.
That's confident play of the week.
Karolina Kowalkiewicz against Vanessa Demopoulos. I've made jokes calling her sloppy Demopoulos. I'm done with it because although she does thrive in chaos, her wrestling is getting better. And as she puts in more serious camps and has more work put in, she's just getting better and better. And I like Vanessa Demopoulos in this one, to be honest. So I'm going to go with Vanessa Demopoulos to be able to create enough chaos to win either a decision or a late finish on Karolina Kowalkiewicz.
I'm gonna go Carolina. I think she has enough of a defense when it comes to grappling to keep it on the feet and probably just outboxes her. Could be a greasy split decision though. Vanessa's probably gonna land takedowns, and Carolina's probably gonna have the better striking. So depends what the judges are really looking at.
Yeah, I burned a lot of money in the past before on strippers, but I'm not doing it here. Give me Carolina.
I was gonna make a stripper joke, and I was like, let's see if anybody else thinks
that
this
will
one.
make it real. Next fight, we have Ilir Latifi against Rodrigo Nascimento. Everybody talks about his wrestling and Latifi, and they talk about this top game, it seems, and everybody forgets he's a kickboxer with a solid top game, yes, but you have Rodrigo Nascimento, power and jiu-jitsu, power in the striking and the jiu-jitsu. I'm going to go with Nascimento on this one. Latifi, when you say I'm retired and then come back, to me, I can't do it unless you're John Jones. So, what do you think?
Nascimento under 1.5, first round KO. I think he just runs in there like he did with Ben Rothwell and just fucking clips the shit out of Ilya Tippy. Or Ilya lands a takedown and literally lies on his opponent like he's done for his last like 4 fights and does absolutely nothing but sit there and somehow get tired by lying down.
Billy?
I couldn't tell you the last time. I haven't not seen a heavyweight go over in the last couple of weeks. I feel like heavyweight overs have been a thing, and I think we see another one here. Latifi, good chin. I want to do a little bit more research. I want to know why he's coming back.
Yeah, that's
maybe
interesting.
maybe he was trying to leverage the UFC because like the foreign fighters are a little bit different than the American fighters. American fighters are going to be a little bit more loud, boisterous. They're going to go on Ara Hawani's show. They're going to say, "We want money." More of the foreign fighters, they're just going to threaten to retire.
And then we have Chase Hooper against Nick Fiore. I know that you guys are on the Fiore side. I'm on Nick's side as well too. I think that Hooper just literally, I know it's a weird example, but the way that Brock Lesnar took punches from Shane Carwin and sort of backed up and didn't like it, and turned away and turtled up is the same way that you see Hooper in his last fight. He just doesn't like getting punched in the face. And that's not a good thing if you're a fighter. You may want to work on that psychologically. So I'm on the Knicks side. You guys are on the Knicks side as well too. Nick Fiore as the winner.
New England Cartel, baby, stand strong.
Natalia Silva at minus 1850. Coming in, I think she has like one fight under her belt in the UFC, and she's sitting as the chalk on top of chalk on top of chalk against Victoria Leonardo. I know a lot of people are saying Leonardo, basically there's no way she really wins this fight, so the chalk is the chalk. But I mean, for me, but this is literally slipping on a peel. Like, what if something happened to Silva pre-fight we didn't know about? She has an injury, and then you put chalk on minus 700 on Natalia Silva. It would hurt my soul. Please, nobody parlay this. Just watch the fight, enjoy it. If it's a good finish by Silva, I would appreciate a good striking finish. But what's your guys' take on this one? That Silva's aside here, but just a horrible line, in my opinion.
I think Victoria Leonardo's being completely undervalued in this fight. No, dude, I'm fucking with you. I wouldn't touch
Yeah, I was gonna say you're the first person to say that one.
Dude, I wouldn't fucking bet this fight with somebody else's money, okay? Like,
I think there's value on this fight, though.
Well, it's women's MMA, so you should bet the other.
I can't wait to get you into House of Champions in front of Diana Belbita, and I want you to say that shit straight up. Her staring you in the face, I want you to say it's women's MMA. It's what the fuck comes your way. So
I don't want to sound like that guy, but all of Leonardo's losses of recent have all been in the second round. Do we just blindly back Natalia Silva in the second round?
That's But even then, you're probably gonna pay like minus like 250. Yeah,
I don't think we paid minus 250 on singling out one round.
Let's see what.
No way.
What is it?
Let's take a look.
It's gonna be like what plus? Well, maybe they're wrong. Who knows? Plus 250.
Yeah, Silva round 2.
Yeah.
Where the fuck is it?
Plus 350, I'm seeing.
Yeah, plus
I
350.
was gonna say plus 250, but plus 350. Yeah, I mean that's not too bad.
Dude, I'm gonna go Leonardo. Leonardo round 2 plus 2,800. Let's go.
So we got one guy saying one thing, one guy saying another. So why don't we just say fight ends in round 2? But I sort of like that Silva ends it in round 2. That's not too bad.
Yeah, round 2 or 3. I see a late finish here.
It's not too bad of a play as far as finding value. Maybe I was just too scared to stay off it. I mean, Silva's on the feet just looked. I mean, I love Jasmine Vicious. I love the wrestling she brings to the table, but Silva just came in with the footwork and just, no answers for it. So, but yeah, I guess that is one way to look at it. And then finally, we end at Takashi Sato against Themba Garimbo. You guys are both on the same side as this one. I did not really take this. I knew that Sato obviously is exposed multiple ways, but sharp spot by both of you, hopefully. And that would be a great way to start off the night. First fight of the night and money line cashes. What was that sitting at? Minus 115?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, is there anything else that you guys wanted to highlight? Anything you noticed in last week's card that could translate into this week's card? Any line movements, any red flags, anything that you saw this week, or anything else that we wanted to sort of highlight again about the weigh-ins or whatever it would be?
These are one of those cards that are right around that time of May, middle of May. And if you find yourself in the UFC Apex, that means they're kind of testing you out to bring you out on the road. And if you get a couple of performance of the night bonuses, you might see like somebody like Nick Fiore end up smoking Chase Hooper and find him on a UFC Boston card in August.
Fair enough, Nick.
Yeah, no, like this is one of these cards, man, where less is more. Like at least like from my perspective, we did really well last week. Like there was a lot of good reads. Like it's been kind of an uphill battle with trending back up, but like things are going good. This is the type of card, man, where you want to pick 2 or 3 spots, and you don't need to bet every single fight because you're gonna lose money on this one. Like as I picked 4 dogs in a row, and maybe 2 of them are gonna cash. Like it's just one of these cards where it's greasy, it's low level. This could literally be a contender series card split into 2. So
I
just
disagree
tread
with
lightly.
that statement, man. This is the last card that we're gonna have before we have a week break, and we're all gonna be bitching next Saturday about not having MMA and not gambling on MMA.
Bro,
So
we have
I
road
would be
to the
betting
UFC next
probably.
week.
We
have
have to be
road
real.
to the UFC.
We got UFC 289 coming up, and we're not even be able to do breakdowns on that show. It's gonna be like, okay, so this is this person. I can't really do the breakdown because I want them to win. So it's gonna be definitely a hard spot. I'm gonna pick the main event as my picks for that fight. So
Yeah, so all I'm gonna tell you guys, we got a week off, and there's a fight that I should highlight that's coming up in 2 weeks. That line's changing. Daniel Pineda is gonna fucking beat the shit out of Alex Caceres. He started at like a plus 170. He's like a plus 130 right now. That's just probably gonna change come Friday. So I cashed big on Daniel Pineda against Tucker Lutz, and people keep undervaluing my boy here. So don't miss out on that line.
Alex
'cause I don't know if
Caceres scares the shit out of me, man. That man just I don't know. He just finds ways to do things, split decisions, or pull subs out of his pocket. I don't know. That's it. But yeah,
When's the last time Alex Caceres has been the younger fighter in a matchup?
That's true too. Dude, Daniel Pineda's got one of the best back tattoos, okay? Take my money.
do your own work, everybody. Don't go out back tattoos because Nick's gonna find himself on unprofessional
Nick does
breakdowns
make a
and
good
YouTube.
statement though, because if you back women's MMA with neck tattoos, man, I mean, sheesh, you're gonna be highly profitable.
Yeah, I think that's maybe more of there's a definitive thing going on there. There's neck tattoos and that's a hard ass one.
Hell wants to get me a sweater that just says over 2.5 because every single time we talk in like our group chat about it, like they'll start trying to debate a women's fight. I'm like over 2.5. Like I got nothing. Like just throw it out.
Well, we got a couple spots on women's MMA this week, and I think we got some pretty sharp spots for the week. Billy Briz, thank you for stopping in again this week. I think
before we leave though, real quick, I know we're under a short time constraint. Thoughts on Tim Elliott, Gina Manzani situation with Tim Elliott fighting in 2 weeks?
My God, that guy's had a whirlwind of a life the past 2 years. Your mentor and go-to guy that you probably, I don't even know.
Wouldn't even be close.
Billy loved that drama shit.
Poor Tim Elliott, man, dude. Who was the other guy? Fucking not Durden. Durden kicked his ass. JP Buys, man.
JP Buys.
Yeah, that felt pretty bad too. And like, what do? You're in a room in the bigger, dominant alpha male that pretty much looks at bears and bears run away. Like, what do you do in that situation? That dude is like,
dude, that was the card where Roman just fucked up Dawkins with that crazy knee. Like, imagine just coming up like, nah, dude, you can fucking have her. Like, I don't want nothing to do with this.
Here, my woman, I take. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Nah, man, I think that will be fine.
There's your 5 minutes of MMA drama this week.
Okay.
Poor
On
Tim
that
Elliott,
note,
dude.
Gina Mazzani enters the realm of blacklisted people that, yeah, that's brutal. That's just,
dude,
that's
and
brutal.
honestly, you got women like Mackenzie Dern, who's got one of the most beautiful asses in women's MMA, and you're out there chasing Gina Mazzani. Like, who's really at fault here?
And Nick just offended half of the female population that listens to our podcast, which is maybe my mom and maybe his. On that note, I'm Callum McGregor for Billy Briz of Plus Sports Radio, Nick Eagle Eyes, Mr. Spin Kick MMA, Mr. MMA Breakdowns, Mr. Let's Get It Fucking Done. We got some dogs this week. We got some good picks. Don't Tap Podcast. Let's go.
I'm Gentleman Josh Hill.
I'm Aaron Jeffrey.
I'm Johnson Jazz Busiest.
I'm Mike Malott.
I'm Rafian Style. Tune into
Don't Tap
Podcast.
Don't tap.
Podcast.
John Jones.
Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number one rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework.
That's why I'm saying the rankings are bullshit.
Motherfucker from Canada.
Got a really high fight IQ.
But this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
Levels to the shit.
So many high level guys.
So like the line is crazy.
Oh, there we go. No, we're good. See, he's a pro.